Oh my goodness, we are back. Welcome everybody to episode 2 of the In Between Time podcast with Zach, Raul, and Xander. Against all odds, our show did not get the theoretical no swinging a golf club in the area speech from Richie G, and here we are for round 2. We want to thank everybody who listened, everybody who reacted to it, everybody who emailed us and texted us. Honestly, it was so cool to get the feedback from Brant Lakers from all ages, eras, so many different parts of the world. But we got to stop patting ourselves in the back. Let's get this puppy rolling. And as always, we are going to start with the best thing that happened to us this week. Raul, what was the best thing that happened to you this week?
I ordered a table off Amazon, like a little TV dinner table, a little bit bigger than the one that I had originally. So it's really been helping me out with my online teaching, so I'm pretty happy about that. That's the best thing that's happened to me this week.
That's pretty cool. Are you using the table for materials? Are you what's the table for?
I mean, obviously for the computer, but the secondary reason was I got to be able to eat and also to hold my Nintendo Switch. So in those lows, your boy's playing video games while pretending to look at the computer screen so the students think that I am engaged. So, yeah.
Multitasking with Raul, the new podcast coming this Saturday. Xander, what was the best thing that happened to you this week?
Wow, Raul, that sounds really great. For me, I've been doing a lot of reading during this period. I just finished reading the book Slaughterhouse-Five. And I was a little nervous at the beginning because I hadn't read 1 through 4, so I didn't know if I would be able to understand it. But then it turns out that that's not what the book is like at all. So there is no 1 through 4. So I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to read.
So did you think you were coming in 4 episodes deep and just you were going to catch up and figure out what was going on? What was the thought process? Have you heard of Kurt Vonnegut? What did you think was going on when you picked the book up?
They had assigned that when I showed up at school my freshman year of college. They had given a copy to everyone, every incoming freshman, to read the book. And I didn't read it then, and I didn't read much of my assigned reading in high school or college. But now we're kind of in a period where there's not much else to do. So I believe that was my 6th book of the quarantine period.
Not bad.
Not bad.
What's next? What's coming up next? Slaughterhouse 6? Or are you going to jump to Slaughterhouse 9?
Did that come out yet? I'm waiting for that one. I don't know. It's got to be something that was on a high school syllabus that I thought, in high school I was too cool to read. Probably Animal Farm, something Orwell, because I'd read 1984 before.
Animal Farm's a good one. I definitely read that in school, too. I definitely don't remember it. I remember it was an allegory. That's where I learned what the word allegory meant. So that's my takeaway from Animal Farm. Best thing that happened to me this week, I don't know if you guys know, I'm quarantined up at camp with Max and his fiance and my girlfriend. And his fiance, Chloe, who's one of the directors of the Sports Academy, actually made homemade ramen last night for dinner. And I think of all the food that I'm missing during this quarantine. It's it's easy to eat the burgers and the American food, but stuff like ramen, man, it was delicious. She nailed it. It was the right level of spice. The noodles were on point. Kind of felt like I was back home in the city. So that was certainly the best thing that happened to me this week. You guys, what do you think about that? What's the thing you're missing the most right now?
I mean, I can't think of anything because I'm not really participating in this quarantine. I'm going out and getting whatever I want whenever I want. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Maybe the restaurant experience, I guess. Yeah, just being able to go out and hang out with people. That's it. It's just being able to freely go out and hang out with people, and going out to a bar and just chatting up with my friends, and that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty for us of doing this podcast, right? It's just an excuse to hang out with your friends. But, all right, moving on. We've got a new segment this week. We got such an overwhelmingly positive response. So many people wrote into our email, inbetweentimeBLC@gmail.com, that we're going to do our fan response of the week. And this week, Raul, who is our fan response of the week sponsored by?
Okay, so before we get rocking with our topic for this week, we're going to add a new segment, like you just said, called Fan Mail of the Week. And today, that's brought to you by Al Pastor's Religious Services. We do it all from brisks to baptisms. We snip them and dip them. Whether it's a wedding in a church or a bar mitzvah at a shul, pick up the phone and call your buddy Raul, Al Pastor's Religious Services, an internet licensed faith practitioner. And for a limited time only, the first 5 people that book will receive a free order of our world famous Al Pastor tacos made with 100% kosher brisk.
I think you meant brisket, Raul.
I finished it. I said brisk.
Shul also kind of gave yourself away there. It's called shul, Raul, because it rhymes with Raul. I think that's what the company was going for. But that's okay. You tried. Xander, what was our fan response of the week?
Wow, Raul, that was very exciting. Where can I sign up? Before I go to the fan mail, I'd just like to remind our viewers that this copyrighted podcast is presented by authority of Brant Lake Camp and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this podcast may not be disseminated without express written consent from the aforementioned Brant Lake Camp. We really appreciated all of the messages that we got. A couple quick shout-outs. EJ Bigfish had a couple nice questions. Jake Boxer had some recommendations for who we could have on, which I'm not sure if we're listening to Boxer at this point, but if things start to go off the rails, we might have to call him in as a special producer. Jed Honig had a great idea for a spelling bee. We might have to incorporate that at some point. And, of course, Muskie just sent me an email that looked really nice. But, Rick, can you forward me Rick, the one that we... the one from Tyler Mosca, the one that we decided was the email of the week. As always, thank you to our producer, Rick K. Okay, so here's the email from Tyler Mosca. Since my time out of senior camp, I have grown accustomed to having a mullet. My dad believes I was born to have a business in the front and a party in the back. Do you believe the mullets will come back as a fad? Do you remember some memorable mullets at BLC? That was from Tyler Mosca. Fellas, you can jump in as you wish.
I think we need a picture. So, Tyler, if you are listening to episode 2 here, I think we're going to need a picture of that mullet, and we will do our best to describe it on episode 3. Raul, do you think anyone in LA post-quarantine will be rocking the mullet?
Well, I know that the comedian Theo Vaughn's always a big mullet guy. He's hilarious, and he's always rocking. He's always pro mullet. But I'm in asking about camp. I can't remember any specific mullets, but I do remember one moment because I'm sure there'll be a plug down the line. Raul's Barbershop, always running in Brant Lake Camp. I remember a moment where it wasn't a mullet necessarily, but I was giving Sam Ravitz a haircut, and I accidentally took the guard off and chopped off like a big portion on the front of his head. It was one of the best haircuts that I've ever given because he rocked it. He went out and he didn't care. He was walking around with that patch for a solid week until I was able to completely buzz it off. So that's just a funny haircut story for me.
Poor guy. All right, we'll see. We'll see if mullets make a comeback. And again, make sure you keep sending in your questions, comments, suggestions to inbetweentimeBLC@gmail.com. And who knows, you might be the fan response of the week. Okay, it is time to move on to our topic. So last week, we kind of laid the groundwork for who we are, what we're about, what this podcast is going to be. So we figured this week we would take a deep dive into sort of a more specific topic. And I think this one is near and dear to all of our hearts, definitely near and dear to all the hearts of Brant Lakers everywhere. It's one of the defining moments of the summer. And I think, as Xander said on episode 1, it's sort of one of those first collaborative, everybody's in it together, big-time senior camp moments. We are obviously going to talk about the song contest this week. And guess what, guys and ladies, everybody listening all over the world, we snagged our first guest ever in the history of the In Between Time podcast. Xander, Raul, I don't know what depths of despair we went to, all the degrading things we had to get to land this massive, massive fish as our first guest. His people finally got back to us. There's no way we would have gotten him if it weren't time in the quarantine. But we feel honored, lucky, privileged, and lots of other bigger words that I haven't learned yet to welcome AB himself, Andy Berlin, as our first ever guest on the podcast. Andy, welcome. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing real good. Thank you so much. I am truly, as you said, I'm honored to join this distinguished group of Brant Lakers.
I think distinguished is the nicest word you could have possibly used for the three of us, Andy. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. You know, a lot of you might ask, why did you get Andy Berlin? You had so many senior camp people, and Andy is certainly not a senior camp person. We thought it'd be really, really cool to sort of get the outsider perspective of the seniors prepping, practicing, performing the song contest, what that rivalry has been like. As you guys know, Andy was the group head for the Inters for a long, long, long time. And not to slight the Softs and Juniors, again, they were probably robbed last year, but the Inters and the seniors have a little bit of a rivalry in the song contest. So we thought we'd get the other side, the opponent, to come in and kind of give us a little bit of a feel for what it's like looking up, and I said up on purpose, at the seniors during song contest rehearsal and during the performance. So, Andy, first question for you. That last dinner on the Sunday of the song contest, all the parents have left, visiting day is over, Inters are walking to the dining room, counselors have great ratios, they're carrying kids on their shoulders, everybody's having a really nice time, and all of a sudden there is an army of obnoxious teenagers screaming, chanting, yelling at you from the balcony of the senior dining room. Have you ever wet your pants in intimidation having seen them screaming at the Inters coming up the hill?
I'd have to say I never wet my pants. It is probably one of my most favorite meals of the summer to come up there to that. And we, whether you know it or not, we prep the kids down in the area because we know it's going to happen. We've had an emotional visiting day. We're a little tired. You know, you always try to tell them, you know, it's going to take it easy and don't give it back to them. But you know those little guys, 100 little guys, they're going to give it right back. But fortunately, we're frequently coming up there, and all we have to do is put up, 1, 2, 3 fingers for whichever, when we win, you'll at least know how many times you lost.
Yeah, sort of got a one-fingered response to that answer as well. But seriously, Andy, what do you think, what's your impression of kind of the senior camp song contest experience? Like, what do you see from afar? What does it look like from the outside? How does it really differ from song contest for the Inters?
Well, I think it's the seniors take it. I mean, everybody takes it very seriously, but the seniors take it in a different way. Our kids, you get those guys into rehearsal, and just trying to keep them seated for that time is a chore in itself. Where I think the seniors take it a little bit more like a mission, where our guys kind of naively, well, we want to win this thing, but you guys take it to that next level, I think, that we take it to on the night when it happens, and then we just win.
Yeah, he's might have regretted bringing him on the show. He's throwing haymakers from the jump. Raul, you did a bunch of years on Junior Hill. You started on Inter Row. From the outside looking in, what sort of what impression did you get just sort of watching the seniors on song contest night, maybe seeing them coming in and out of rehearsal? What does it look like from afar?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. My memory is, I'm kind of like a new up-and-coming Doc Brunt. My memory is terrible. I can remember the most obscure things from camp. But for some reason, when it comes to, like, those moments back in Junior Hill, I can't really recall, like, thinking anything. And maybe that was just me being kind of like an outsider, not maybe putting forth as much thought into this great process that I should have. I just, my job at that point, I'm very much about my job. And my job was to get juniors up and down the hill. I probably had a junior my size on my shoulder, so I'm probably just trying to stay upright, walking down the hill, walking up the hill. So I can't necessarily remember what that was like. I do remember my first ever summer being with the Inters, and the Inters won it that year. And I remember being a part of that celebration, and that's one of those obscure memories that I can remember, just being a part of the celebration. What bunk is that? Right above AB room. What bunks are those?
3132.
Yeah, it was right there on 3132. And I just remember kind of being on the outside and like looking in and being like, wow, these kids are really amped about winning this contest. And, you know, that was really cool. You know, I think I was for sure a winner with the juniors, and I remember them kind of running down to the junior basketball court and celebrating. So that was cool as well. And, you know, seeing the seniors celebrate as well when they win. That's the part that I remember most. I don't remember it particularly walking back and forth and seeing the seniors do anything special back in the day, at least.
So, Xander, again, you've kind of been all over the place as a camper, as a counselor. What sort of differentiates song contest and senior camp from everywhere else for you?
Well, before I get into that, that's funny that Raul remembers that his first year on In a Row, because I was in bunk 31 that year when we won. So I just, you know, that's kind of funny for me. I always loved song contests. That was always that's a big moment in the summer for me, going back to when I was a camper. I always made a point to try to like be a conductor. I always thought that was a lot of fun, really cool. And then once we got to senior camp, you know, your first year, that's an important moment, because that's the first time like you're the star of the show. Because like there are some intercamps that you see the B's and C's participating in. I remember that basketball game against Echo is always like a huge moment, and so people think, oh, they're looking to the seniors, but they're really looking to the B's and C's. So this is like song contest senior A year. That's the first time that you guys are the stars of the show. So I remember that, like that moment that we were, you know, the focal point of senior camp, but then also kind of the focal point of camp. And then, you know, working on the songs as a counselor, that might even be more fun than, you know, when we participated in it as campers.
I mean, do you remember, let's just stick with the camper part while we're there for now. Do you remember like a specific senior original song that stuck out in your mind from when you were a camper, either in senior camp or not in senior camp?
Yes. My first year, they did Shout for the cheer. It was just 2006. They did Shout. I think it was Henry Rubin who was in front of all the kids going nuts. And that's, I mean, so that's 14 years ago, and I still remember it. I mean, that's how cool. I mean, you can say what you want about that, but that's something I remember.
No, that's awesome, and I think maybe part of the reason you remember it is just because, you know, if we're being, I don't know, if we're typecasting each of the groups, softs and juniors, they do a really good job and they're pretty cute up on the stage and it looks pretty good and they try to sing. The inters are going to win by singing the best, and senior camp's going to win by putting on an absolute circus for everybody, right? I mean, that's Andy. What do you think? Is that sort of how you see it?
I know. I certainly agree. It's you guys put on a show that's it's unmatched. I mean, that's why, you know, we always hope that, or at least I hope personally, we got to sing before you guys do. Because if we come after you to see the show, the kids are like deer in the headlights sometimes. It's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is again, going back to what, you know, Xander said last week and maybe what I opened with, you really feel 140 people. And particularly when they're performing, you know, you've got the A's on the stage, you've got the senior C's in the back, and there used to be the balcony, so they were up in the balcony making noise, and you used to have the B's in the back of the clubhouse. And you know, just I remember as an inter A, inter B, for sure, like, you know, I didn't know where to look. I turned around and I looked up at the stage and there was just noise everywhere, and it was just like this, you know, hurricane of senior camp, just like power and authority. It's intimidating a little bit. I mean, and you know, as a senior A, looking up and seeing the rest of senior camp, I mean, literally staring at you, but having your back and cheering and going nuts for you. It's a really cool feeling. I mean, there's not many things, again, beginning of the senior A summer, that really make you feel like, wow, I am 100% a part of this. Like, I am just as much in this as the senior C who plays varsity basketball and the senior B who hit a home run in the senior B and under tournament. I am just as much senior camp as the rest of these people. I mean, Andy, do you have a song that you remember in particular? You know, watching the seniors and you were like, oh man, this is.
I mean, I have to say it was, you know, 2016. Not the song, maybe it was the second song from the balcony, the senior C's, when they talking about their brothers. I mean, that blew me. That was a happening. I mean, one of the best things about the song contest, I mean, that I come from, you know, it's just an amazing evening. But that was an evening that I don't think will ever be matched. It was beautiful. It was emotional. It was rowdy. It had everything you would want, where everybody could feel good about themselves. It was amazing.
Yeah, so I'm sure most of you know what he's talking about, but obviously Andy's talking about the 2016 Senior Seas did sort of like a second original song and sang Dixieland Delight. Cuts, if you're listening, it's not cheating. We can do what we want. And let's talk about where that came from, where the idea came from. I mean, I think Xander and I, were sort of instrumental in kind of writing it or whatever, but it was a real group effort for sure. Raul, you tell me, should we talk about that song? Should we talk about just the songwriting process? I mean, let's stick with that one. Where did that one come from? Xander, do you remember where that one came from?
Yeah, I remember exactly where that came from. This is funny because my senior year of high school, so this is before the summer of 2015, I went with a couple of my friends down to Alabama for a football game. They played Mississippi State, and Dak Prescott was the quarterback for State. Amari Cooper was on the team for Alabama. Landon Collins, Derrick Henry. I mean, this was an awesome team. And State was ranked number 1. Alabama was ranked number 5, and then they won. But I mean, that whatever. But what I heard, they put a text on the board. They said, text in for whichever song you want to hear: Sweet Home Alabama, some other song, or Dixieland Delight. I was like, we're in Alabama. They're obviously going to choose Sweet Home Alabama. It had 100% for Dixieland Delight. I'm like, what is this song? Heard it that one time. I'm like, this is amazing. Came back to camp, and I was with the Senior Bees that year. And one day in the dining room, I think I played that song 10 times in a row. And the Senior Bees just lost their mind. They thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard in their lives, just like me. And so we were, I think, in New Hampshire the next year, trying to think of a song to write. We were on the bus, and Zach's like, why don't we just do Dixieland Delight? And I was like, well, that'd be cool, but it'd be better for this group of kids, and they're senior C's now, so we can't do it. And you're just like, well, why can't we do it? I'm like, well, we can't. And he's like, what are the rules? Show me the rules that say we can't do it. I was just like, I guess there aren't any. So we started writing it, and it just worked really well, because that's a song that obviously has a call and response that I think really it allowed for a lot of like sentimental points, but also I think really funny jokes. So I think that was kind of like a perfect mix.
Raul, you're sort of always the glue that brings the songwriting team together. I mean, you're in the room all the time. Talk about the process, man. Like, what's the senior camp songwriting process like?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think my role in that is that I'm just like that really old, nasty shirt that like a pro athlete has worn from like his days in middle school all the way through to his professional days, because he swears it's good luck, and he's worn it for every game. That's my role. I don't really do much. I'm just kind of thrown in there, and like Zach has his process, you have your process, and it's just like you refuse to let me go. The idea is always like, let's get together in your office, and you always say we got to throw out a million bad ideas, and then we get that one really good idea, right? And I remember one specific moment that this happened, and it's just so funny how these things happen. It's like we're all in this room. I honestly don't say much because that's just not my like forte. I'm just not good at like the songwriting. I'm not good at picking a song, so I know to keep my mouth shut during this process. I'm just there for comedic effect, I'll drop a line in here and there just to make fun of someone, to keep the the rhythm in the room like funny and everyone at ease. But I remember David Oring, it was his year, he came back and he's with the seniors, and we're discussing what songs we want to potentially write up. And again, I know better. I've been there for like 2 years now. I knew better than to open my mouth and give a really bad suggestion. And I believe he gave the suggestion of like Post Malone, Congratulations, and continued to try to write a couple of lyrics. And I was just watching your face, Zach, and Xander's face, and it was just like, oh man, guy, read the room. This is going nowhere. And he wouldn't let it go, and it was the funniest thing ever.
It's really hard to make the rule that there is no bad idea in the brainstorming session and not just completely destroy someone when they come up with a bad idea. It's hard to be consistent. Xander, yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Well, I think the point is, I think what actually helps is like having friends who are going to, berate you for coming up with a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because like it takes the pressure off, because you know that like everyone, you're going to laugh at yourself for coming up with a bad idea and everyone's going to laugh at you. It's like you realize quickly that that's the worst thing that's going to happen and nothing else bad happens. Which honestly is like a good model for anyone who's trying to like do something creative. Is like, worst case scenario is it doesn't work and then you try something else. So it allows us a lot of freedom to throw a lot of things at the wall and see what sticks.
And it's funny because I hope this year's senior A's are listening to this. I think the model's the same for getting up and doing something stupid during the song contest, right? It's like, look, like everyone's going to laugh at you a little bit. It's going to be funny. You got everybody behind you. We're all in this together. And the worst case scenario is like you make a little bit of a fool of yourself, but it's funny and it's a great moment for everybody else. Sorry, Raul, go ahead, man.
I just want to add that, like, I think that's Zach's thing. Like, Zach wants as many key staff members in that room, brainstorming, coming up with ideas. Again, a million bad ideas.
I'd like to interject by making sure that if Richie is listening, he is aware that there are certainly the right number of key staff members watching the children when we are writing the song, and it's never at a time when we are supposed to be on duty or otherwise occupied, prepping, planning, or getting ready for the next day of camp. Raul will continue.
So that's Zach's process. But I want to drop, this is Xander. This is something that I've learned about Xander. He told you that he played Dixieland like 10 times. What Xander starts to do when we do finally pick a song, Xander's process is the original song, not the one that we wrote. He's going to play that at least 10 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like for a week leading up to the song contest. So the kids are screaming and crying like, stop, please turn that off. But in reality, it's just like burning that song into their brain. So we got that's Zach and Xander's process. It's like just like a onslaught on the kids. It's hilarious.
So Andy, having heard all this, is that different from Inter-Row? Like, how does it work on the Inter-Row songwriting process? What's that like?
Very different. You guys sound like you take a very scientific approach. in Inter-Row, it's more that you've got that 2-3 ex-campers that tell you week one, yeah, we got it. We got the song contest. We got it. Come to the week. Where's the song? We'll get it. We'll get it. We'll get it. We'll have it for you. Erwin, where's the song? You got to get the song to Erwin. Oh, we're going to have it for him. We're going to have it. When are you going to have it? So it's like, it's a little different. OD night, week before, they're working on it. It's that small group of ex-campers that kind of, I think it's a birthright. When you become a Brant Laker, that at least in the inters, you will be the one writing that song. And they do that, and invariably they get it just in time, get the cheer like 4 hours before the show, so the kids have a really good long time to get it. But it's definitely not as scientific as senior camp. Sounds like you guys have got that down pretty well.
I will say, Andy, it's funny you mentioned the cheer 4 hours before the show. Without fail, what you guys all see is everybody on the steps and screaming and jumping and banging the tables in the dining room at dinner. But straight from there, we go right down to the senior clubhouse and have a very serious, I probably say not nice things to people, but things that they'll appreciate later, dress rehearsal to make sure that we are locked in and ready to go. I mean, do you one of the vivid memories I have every year from the song contest is when everybody's sort of in the clubhouse and Richie's trying to get everyone to quiet down, and inevitably he knows it's going to take a little while because everybody's excited. And just seeing like the Inter A's and the Inter B's kind of turn around with those big eyes and kind of look up at the seniors behind them with, sort of awe and maybe intimidation, maybe not, but just like, oh my God, this is so cool. What's going on? I mean, do you feel that? Did you feel that? And
without a doubt.
What's the approach?
We're trying to, from that walk up, that when you're down in the area and you're lining the kids up, and we've got a line that reaches from Inter-Row to the bell tower, and the kids are just, you can see them. Their chests are getting big. They're breathing a little heavy. And then when we get in there, they're sitting there and they're wondering where the seniors, and when you guys come roaring in, they're looking around, and then that's the first time that, you know, those first year campers, it's like, oh my God, look at this. And even if when they're sophomores and juniors, it's a whole different story. Now they're an inner, it's like the energy in that room is amazing. I mean, I know I feel myself starting to shake. It's just so great to look up there at you guys. I will tell you now, I've never peed my pants, but I definitely, the hair on the back of my head, what little bit I have, does start to and you know it's going to be something special.
Yeah, I love that feeling. Nothing makes me happier. I mean, seeing. I mean, the coolest part for me, I guess, in whatever position I have now is really like you kind of see everybody just come together on this one. I mean, everybody in camp, but particularly in senior camp, there's this one goal, and everybody's in on this one goal, and everybody cares, and everybody feels it. And it's really funny you say that, Andy, about the first-year campers. That's another really funny one for me, too. It's like the senior A's, and, you know, maybe every year there will be a senior A who's just a really good athlete, and he comes to Brant Lake because it's a sports camp, and he's a very good soccer player, a great tennis player. And, you know, somewhere along the line he gets told, like, you know, you've got to do this song contest thing where it's like a team singing competition. And like, okay, he's sort of into it. Maybe he's not so into it. That's fine. I guess I'll do it because my friends say it's important. And then he gets into the clubhouse and kind of turns around, and he's got his basketball jersey and his jeans and his backwards hat on, and he kind of sees all the B's in their green and gray shirts and the C's in their togas, and you can almost see the wheels sort of turn, like the click happen in their head of like, oh yeah, this is really, really cool. This is not like a singing competition that I don't want to be a part of. This is going to be one of the best moments of my summer. I mean, I don't know. I could go on forever. I'm just curious, like Xander, having been at camp as long as you have, are there other songs that stand out to you as just like memorable? Like what were some of your favorites over the years, particularly from the seniors?
But before I get into that, I know Zach's talking a lot of kumbaya stuff about how nice it is that everyone's coming together. And first of all, I don't know if our listeners know this, but Zach was once on the gray team. That was something that mattered to him a lot. Green and gray. He was once a gray. Now I guess he's been purple for 15, 20 years. But this guy, don't let any of this fool you. This guy really, really wants to win the song contest every year. AB's saying it's scientific. I don't know if that's true, but I remember that year, 2016, when we did Dixieland Delight and we won. That was as fired up as I had seen Zach since we'd won, since he had been gray, and he used to lose his mind. If people think I kind of go crazy, this guy was like the guy who did that much more than I did. So don't let any of this other stuff fool you. This guy really, really, really wants it every single year.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, it's true. I Green and Gray and the song contest were always my like 1A, 1B. Of course, like being a purple now, it's hard to get as emotionally invested. I don't get emotionally invested in who wins Green and Gray, but certainly the song contest, you get the competitive juice for sure, and you just want to win, right? You're a competitor, you just want to win. And like, there's nothing bad. Look, we're going to have a party on TYs no matter what. Richie, I promise we'll never break the TYs again, but we're going to have a party on TYs no matter what. The party when we win, I mean, that's like, you could screenshot the back of Ibiza and put that party there and you wouldn't know the difference, man. I mean, it's wild out there. It's quite a feeling, But going back, I'm curious, Xander, what you think? Like songs you remember as a kid from seniors, songs as a counselor senior camp, like what were the ones that kind of stand out in your mind? Winners or losers?
Well, I feel like you kind of do remember the stuff when you win more than you lose. So I remember winning on in a row a lot. So inter B year, I was we did a little.
And he's making a wry smile right now. Okay, get out of here with that, man.
We did a Lil Wayne song for our cheer, and then I had one part where I was wearing these fake dreads dressed as Lil Wayne, and I had on a wife beater and a pair of jeans. And they doing the whole. It was I forget the name of the song, but I come out and I said it was the line was. Like, okay, it's Andy on the row, a.k.a. Mr. Berlin running the show. That was it. I remember that. So I mean, that's funny. So that was 2009, I guess, and I remember that pretty clearly. But for seniors, as a counselor, Seven Nation Army is a cheer. That was awesome. That was a no nonsense. These kids aren't fooling around, because I think that year was for the song we did, Britney Spears, right?
We did 2 songs. Yeah, we did. What did we do? We did Nickelback and Britney Spears.
Oh, it's like, oh, these kids might not be taking it that seriously, and then we did Seven Nation Army as the cheer, and the room was shook.
Yeah, Raul, go ahead, man. You want to jump in?
No, yeah, that was the one that I wanted to talk about, honestly, because I remember being part of that and being in there, and I remember everyone just being kind of like, I was a little shook. I was like, wow, that's just, you know, you go to rehearsals every day and you hear these guys sing and like do their thing, and it's just never, you always feel like we're not quite there. It's not ready. It's not ready. And even when they perform in front of their parents on visiting day, you're like, I'm not sure about this. I don't think we're there yet. And then you hear them in that setting, and it just like all comes together, and you're just like, where did this come from? And that's one of those moments where like I would hear it before, and I was like, they're preparing. I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds cool. This is gonna be really good. And then bam, they get their audience and they just blow up the spot, and it's crazy. But I also wanted to talk about, like, you know, it's crazy how Xander's talking about that year, because that's also the year that I referenced. That was my first summer at Brant Lake, and while I don't remember Xander dressing up as Lil Wayne, as memorable as I'm sure that was,
I gotta find a picture.
You know, I just remember celebrating in 29 and 30. But that's just, you know, it's kind of crazy how Brant Lake has the ability to do that. Like, there's so many connections that could be made in that, like, different moments. But yeah, the preparation never is quite like the actual moment, and hearing Seven Nation Army just come together like that was bananas.
So I'll give you guys a few funny stories about that Seven Nation Army cheer, okay? First one is, that was actually, we were trying to figure out now it's all clicking, it's all coming back, I'm having a Doc Brunt moment. When David Oren came into the room, he was proposing Post Malone Congratulations as our cheer. And that was where we were at. We were like, we got nothing. I don't know what the heck we're going to do. I got up, I went to the bathroom, and somehow that song was stuck in my head. I don't know, maybe there was like a basketball game or something that night. Someone was like playing the music or whatever, and I was like, this could be awesome. We could do this. And we came back in. Yeah, Raul, go ahead.
Do you remember what time in the day that happened to be?
It was after all the kids were asleep and they were in their beds and all the bunks were covered, and it was perfectly acceptable that we were writing the cheer for the song contest. I went to the bathroom and we came back, and like, gosh, Seven Nation Army would be awesome. Just that beat over and over and over again. And now we kind of just kept riffing off of it, and it came together. I think, to your point about when they get in the clubhouse, Raul, it never quite sounded the same as when, like, all of the B's and C's were doing it at the same time. And just the sheer volume and magnitude of it, you know, we did it in the senior clubhouse the night, it was like, oh, this could be pretty cool. We did it on the night of, and it was just, this was like a game changer right now. Everybody was, I was scared, and I knew it was going to happen, right? I think we were all a little nervous about the stability of the balcony. Like, it was a lot. Also, funny story, I believe we went third that night, and the Sophs and juniors went first, and the Inters went second. This is a true story. Max Gersten, earlier that day, offered for us to switch spots. So he wanted to go third because he was the head of the juniors at the time, and he wanted us to go first. And I turned it down, thinking like, I don't want to give Max what he wants, whatever. We're gonna keep what we got. And Andy, you tell me what you think. The Inters won that night. They were incredible. They did a really good job. They deserved it. I think still to this day, had we switched spots and they had to sit there and watch Seven Nation Army happen and then go up there and perform, I don't think it was going to happen. I think they would have won. What do you think, AB?
I reluctantly would agree with you. I told you, I don't ever want to follow the song contest act that the seniors put on if I can avoid it. You know, I know how good we can be, but just you don't know how they're young kids, how they're going to take it. I don't mind when they're looking at you wide-eyed if they've already gone. But if they're looking at you wide-eyed and they haven't gotten up there yet, that little bit in their mind can always think like, I don't know if we're going to get there. And it's hard. You try to jack them up, but it's hard. You only got 2 seconds while they're walking on stage.
Yep. Xander, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing is like everyone can say that they're not focused on what the seniors are doing, but the seniors are the one who are kind of setting the tone. And I think this story speaks to that. When I was a counselor with the juniors, for 2 weeks in the summer of 2014. And my bunk that year, they kept playing the song Classic that the seniors had done. And it didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, this wasn't your song. Why are you guys so? And then I was just like, wow, this is really what it looks like for all these kids to look up to those seniors. It was funny then because I was those seniors' counselor next year, and they would never recreate it. Singer never wanted to sing it again. Harris wouldn't do the rap. It was nuts. But it was very funny.
Yeah, the younger Zach Cohen and I think it was Jared Goldstern wrote that song. That was pretty good. But what's funny is that because they were so good, and I think that group had been particularly good at the song contest all the way through, that Ben Singer, Harris, Brian Cromwell, those guys, that was part of the reason we thought, like, these guys should have a song when they're senior Cs because they crushed it when they were senior As. And that was the group that ended up singing Dixieland Delight when they were senior Cs. Pretty funny. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. I just want to delve back in while we've got Andy. We've got to use the prize fish while we've got him. The inter-senior rivalry. How real is it? How much do the inters really get into it? Do they feel it? Do they feel like it's a one-on-one contest? I mean, speak to your experience being with the inters, knowing that, like, we've got to go out and beat the seniors later.
Well, definitely it is, because no one was going to be here tonight. I had to go back 10 years and look at what the record was in those last 10 years. So it exists, and I guess I didn't realize actually these last 10 years it's been 5-5.
Wow.
But the inters always had a string, and then the seniors would come in and break a string. You know, we were always had, you know, at least 1-2 fingers up, and you guys would break us in the third one, or, you know, you'd get a gift or two, or you'd bend something and, you know, change the rules. Oh, there are no rules. That's right.
Yeah, we already established that there are no rules.
No rules. But it's definitely there. I mean, as that week starts, you talk about it with the kids about that stuff, and then it gets huge. That, you know, that dinner when you're up on that balcony, and I see those senior Cs who I knew when they were 7 years old, and when they were sports, pointing back down at me, and the kids. That rivalry exists. There's no doubt in my mind, and the kids feel it. They feel it.
Okay, so we've got to come to a conclusion too on something that's been bothering me for a while. The number of fingers that you get to hold up, does it correspond to the number of years that the group you are currently in has won the song contest in a row, or does it correspond to the age group having won the song contest in a row? So let me make that a little bit clearer. I win the song contest as an inter B, and now I am a senior A. Do I get to hold up 2 fingers as, like, we're going to win 2 years in a row because I won last year? Or do the inters get to hold up 2 fingers, even though the current inter A's did not win the summer before? Andy, what's your opinion?
Oh, it's definitely the group that you're in. You're a senior A. You won as an inter B. You're not holding up 2. You're holding up a hopeful 1.
I don't know. Xander, go ahead.
My take is whatever is convenient for you. So if it applies to me that, now I get to hold up 2, I'm definitely holding up 2. If it's iffy, I'm always going to go with if it works for me in that situation, that's the route I'm going to take.
So you always round up is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, there are no universal truths here. Whatever I think works in my benefit is the route I'm going to take.
That I feel like applies to a lot of things for you. Say, Raul, what's your take on this? I feel like as a somewhat level-headed, unbiased participant, but really onlooker, what's your take on this?
I mean, it's got to be the group. I mean, that's end of the story. It's the group you're in. I mean, you can't leave one job and then like claim all the accolades from your previous job. It's like, yeah, no, you left. So you're in a different.
Still on the resume, though.
It's
Yeah. Okay. So here you go. So I'm an inter B. This is obviously a ridiculous scenario because it never would have happened. But I'm an inter B, and I belt out an unbelievable, memorable solo on whatever original song that the 19-year-old clowns that Andy has write the song contest write. And now I'm a senior A, and Xander writes a masterpiece, and now it's my turn to sing the solo on this new song. I don't get credit for my win last year. I can't hold my two up. Is that what you're saying, Raul?
Well, then let me ask you this: Is it? Does Zach Cohen get to hold up however many fingers for writing the song?
I think so. Me too. I think I'm on Team Xander, honestly. I didn't think this is where I was going to be in the beginning of the argument, but as far as me taking credit for things wherever I can, I think I'm rounding up the number of fingers no matter what.
Go. Welcome to the party, pal.
Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
I just think if we go with that, you're going to have people in the same group putting up all different fingers.
Good.
It's confusing. It just doesn't look good.
Good.
There's no uniformity.
Interesting. Yeah, there's the new camper issue, right? So what if you were a new inter B and the inters won last year? Can you put the two fingers up?
Definitely.
I guess you do whatever works for you.
Yeah, there you go.
Number of fingers. All right. We'll do it right now. We got to go around. Just this is a good place to end it. Raul, favorite song contest song that you've ever heard? Go ahead, right now.
I mean, it's Dixieland Delight, for sure.
Favorite one of all time, Dixieland Delight.
It's just the call and response that we had going there was amazing. Just like they hit it perfect, and like the C's setting the A's up and the A's responding the way that they did. That was by far my favorite one so far, yeah.
So I'll go next. It's actually the song that we clipped for the intro and outro music of this podcast. It's actually the only song contest I've missed in the last 25 years. My CIT summer, so we came up for the last two and a half weeks or whatever it was. But they did Like a Prayer by Madonna. I mean, that's about as timeless and epic of a song contest song as you could. I mean, there are 9-year-olds who come into camp who maybe weren't even born when that song was sung at the song contest. I mean, certainly weren't. I don't know if anyone camp that's currently a camper was born when that one was written and performed. But everybody knows it. Everybody somehow knows who Key One Ware and Mike Hall, like T.Y.'s, everybody. And it's funny because they actually didn't win. And I don't know how it happened. I wasn't there, but I think that's easily the best non-winning song contest song of all time. Xander, go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I remember my senior A year, Mike Hall came back to camp for a little bit, for maybe like the last 2 weeks. And he was introduced in the dining hall, and then everyone in unison started singing his verse. Everyone knew every word to it. And this was, I guess, 6 or 7 years after that song had actually been done. And everyone knew. I mean, I hadn't been at camp when they had done that song, but I still knew it. I still do know it. I know it now. So I think that kind of speaks to what you're saying.
But is that your favorite, though, Xander? What's your favorite?
No, Nickelback. Come on. That was awesome. I'm through listening to Cuts, John B. and Andy Berlin. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great. And I remember Ben Daniels being so against doing it. And he sang it once. And literally the whole, this again, whatever you said last week, a man making senior camp moment. He was on TYs. We're like, Ben, just do a goofy Nickelback voice. Chad Kroger, do your best right now. And he did the first verse, and there were 140 people that were like, "Oh, you have to do this. This is amazing." And then that year, we did the Britney Spears bit and turned Jason Marks into a folk hero.
Oh,
out of nowhere, Jason Marks. What was the? I think I did it again, right? I mean, he made himself into a camp legend just in the song contest. That was awesome. Andy, favorite song contest song you can remember?
I just get in a very serious emotional moment. I think it's 2017 when the Inters did the homage to Uncle Merle, a Brant Lake legend. I mean, that just took the house down, and it was an emotional moment for everybody in the house because everybody had been touched by such an amazing man. I know we've been joking around so much, and I know I brought it down a little bit, but I just think that got my heart and every heart in the audience.
Yeah, I remember it so well, and I'm glad you brought it up. I remember hearing that and knowing that our stuff was good, and knowing we just had no chance. And not because it was like a gratuitous whatever tribute to Merle. It was so good. It was so on point. It was so well written. It was so well sang. And again, I think that's kind of the beauty of the song contest in 2 performances back-to-back is it can go in so many different directions. You can go, an amazing, sentimental, meaningful tribute to someone who is so important to so many people. And you could have someone singing Nickelback and Britney Spears. And, that's sort of the magic of the event. It can capture so many different emotions in so many different ways. Yeah, Andy, go ahead.
Well, it's also the most amazing is you go to breakfast the next morning, and the interest of singing the senior songs and singing the soft song, right. And then all you hear, I don't know if you guys hear it, but I do. In the winter, moms are telling me they're playing it in the car. The kids are singing the songs in the car, singing their camp song contest songs. So it's an event. It's a happening. It's beyond words sometimes to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's so cool that a camp that, prides itself on being this incredible sports camp where sports are done right and instruction is amazing. And you've got these incredible athletes that an opportunity for a lot of camp to get outside their comfort zone and do this competition that's just so unrelated to most other things that go on throughout the summer. And the spirit and the effort and the energy that gets thrown into it. I mean, you're right, Andy. It's a magical moment. I think that's a good place to stop. I mean, I don't really know if there's much else to say. I want to thank Andy for joining us, the first ever guest on the In Between podcast. I hope we didn't blow it for future guests by not letting anyone even have a chance to match up to the first one. But Andy, thanks, man.
No, thank you. This was a lot of fun. And if you had asked me next time you hear what was the best part of my week, I would say being a part of this podcast was the best part of my week.
Oh, you're too good to us, AB. All right. Moving on to maybe everybody's favorite segment of the show. We've got Xander Furman's Top 10 of the Week. Xander, what do you got for us, buddy?
Here we go, guys. All right. For this week, it's been a song contest themed conversation, so I figured a song contest themed Top 10 would be good. This week we have top 10 things overheard at song contest rehearsal, starting off with number 10. Number 10, there's no way you're taller than me. Number 9, trust me, you don't want me to sing louder. Number 8, if you're the conductor, you'll probably get more votes for captain. Number 7, he got a solo. Number 6, I'm not fidgeting. Number 5, have you heard the inters? Number 4, can we hide him behind a tall kid? Number 3, don't worry about him, he's leaving on visiting day. Number 2, it's rigged anyway. And the number 1 thing most likely to be overheard at the song contest rehearsal is, I'm vamping. Ba-da-ba-ba.
Thank you, Xander. Unbelievable. Top 10 of the week. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't give a certain shout out to Erwin Cohen, too, for making the song contest what it's been for as long as he has. And give a lot of credit, too, to Blake Pearson for doing an undoable job last summer and filling some unfillable shoes, carrying on a special tradition. Whoa, that was a lot of fun. Once again, we've got to give our utmost appreciation to our man, AB, for taking some time out of his completely insane schedule to hang out and chat with us. And remember, guys, if you want to get in touch with the show, shoot us an email, inbetweentimeBLC@gmail.com. We want the comments. We want the suggestions. We want the questions. We want the criticism. All of it. Raul, you got some words of wisdom for us this week?
Yeah, guys, just remember, even if the grass seems greener on the other side, somebody's still got to cut that grass.
And this seems like a good place to cut us off. For all 3 of us, prime time is over. You missed your chance to shower, and you can't get water from the health center. Get in your bugs, and we'll see you next time on the In Between Time podcast.
I'm in senior